I am very pleased to welcome Irene Ng onto the stage next. Irene is genuinely one of the original innovators in this personal data economy big idea, and she's that rare beast. She's an academic who's also a businesswoman. So I'm going to welcome her on stage now. She's going to do a presentation, and then we'll have a little chat at the end. So, Irene.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? Right, thanks. Hi, I'm Irene. I'm the CEO of Dataswift, Professor of Marketing and Service Systems at Warwick University. For my sins, also a fellow Turing for 2 years and fellow college for quite a number of years. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the economics of personal data. Let's start with this. The boundary between the physical and digital, we all know it's becoming fused. It used to be that what is physical was real and what was digital was digital. Today, I tend to lose my boarding pass the second I get it. And for some reason, I can lose it every single time whenever they print a paper. My husband says you should never touch paper. The boarding pass that's paper is not real. The thing that is digital is real. So we've come a long way in digitalization as to what is considered to be real and the truth and what is considered to be dispensable. We're looking at our health, our finances, our shopping, our things. They are now more and more digitized. They are all existing in the form of data. The way we work as individuals and businesses are also changing. Here's a few stats for you. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. 95% of firms in this world are now micro SMEs. 95%. Firms that are only one person or two persons are now prevalent everywhere, mostly because of COVID. 70% of workforce are hired by these 95% of micro firms. The wage, as we know it, has not kept up with inflation. People are not waiting. They have become gigs and they become firms. And they have gone on to take on capital and technology and move around the world. And many are doing fine, many are not. But that also is changing a lot of that world. Our data, therefore, isn't just in one app, it's in all apps. And that data is an essence of who we are, whether we're a micro firm or whether we are an individual. So we know, I think this is an audience that knows this very well, that the data economy will be the biggest economy. It's 11.7 trillion, and I think these numbers are already outdated. But from an economics perspective, we do not use our data the way we use money. We keep our money in bank accounts. We transact freely with whomever we choose. Frictionless, instant transactions. That's how we drive economic growth. But the current data economy isn't structured for that kind of sharing. Data is incredibly siloed within centralized systems. This is because the legal title to the data is tethered to the originator. That's it, whoever created that data owns that data, has the legal title towards licensing that data. When the legal title resides with the originator, the modes of sharing data aren't scalable. You can do it, it's not stopping anyone from doing it, it's just not scalable. You can do multilateral sharing, try to bring it all in-house, have an API. Everyone get together, go to a hub. Or you can have an intermediary, like open banking or human APIs. But they either have to deal with consent fatigue, bottlenecks, or some form of pseudonymization that just isn't going to scale. All are not ideal. Is there another way? What if any organization-held personal data can be made into a legal, fungible, licensable asset just within a few days? This asset can be listed for a user activation to unlock its value and mobility. It starts to become a bit more like a currency. So our new technology built over 10 years now, I think, and about 10 universities, have built a little thing called a decentralized data server. And what it tends to do is something very subtle but very important. It can decentralize data and the data titles. We call it rehoming. Now, rehoming is very important because if you can rehome a data and still ensure its source of truth and still ensure that you are the originator and still get paid for it wherever it gets transferred, then you're a bit into the money. And on top of that, if you could do that without a blockchain, you could hopefully not consume half the world's energy. So the decentralized data servers that was built and over the last 4 or 5 years started to move out, and we deployed it in Dataswift into the cloud. And we started to look at how data can be mobilized to become an asset. And so we created, just imagine the data server as a connector, like a USB-C. And it could belong to an individual, but it also could belong to an organization. So data servers can be organizations-based because it's a legal entity, or an individual-based. But think about the individual here as a connector, USB-C, and it's the individual who can carry a piece of data from one place to another. In order to create the connection, using the analogy of USB-C or things like that, you can think of a data passport as the driver, and the data pass as the asset. So the data pass in our world is a legal, fungible, and non-forgeable, potentially, asset that can actually be passed from website to website. And that's what decentralized data servers can do. And so because of that, you can now have fully compliant data mobility between apps, including PIIs. You can have bring your own KYC, bring your own location, bring your own allergy, bring your own credit score, bring your own whatever, once the mobility and the connections are created. Decentralized data servers also enable discoverability. So data passports where partners can discover, offer services, and pay for data connections so that they can acquire the data. Now you allow data to be used as a data asset to fuel personalized products and services. Data servers can enable the creation of data pipelines, extend your internal data pipelines to all your partners in the ecosystem, enable scalable real-time cross-border data flows, including PII, fully compliant with every data regulation in the world. Now you're looking at really interesting programmable event-based action where something happens on one app and then triggers a recommendation in a completely different app from your partner in your ecosystem. And this comes with full consumer participation, full privacy preservation. And decentralized data servers also can provide full visibility of the asset journey, all the way from how many activated, audience, impression, engagement, transactions, down to I will pass you this piece of data with full privacy preservation, because the data pass often is without a PII when I verify my age or verify my credit score. This then emerged the demand for the data asset itself when they are matched with the offers, because these data assets are actually priced. And finally, decentralized data servers enable downstream income. Basically, you can create derivatives where data is passed on to a partner, and then they wrap it with their data and pass on with another partner. And all that, in terms of income and transaction fees, flow back in proportion to all data originators. This then provides the return on investment into data analytics, AI, ML, and other spaces and lakes. The recombination and able to create these derivatives is shown here. In Vietnam, what we do is have credit score belonging to an e-commerce company combined with the credit score of another bank and another bank, just to be able to get credit 360 for one person. And so you can have different audience sets and create derivatives of this data downstream. This enables us to create marketplaces for the data asset as well as really strong and resilient data ecosystems around identity. Some of the rollouts here in Malaysia, they're using verified weight loss to do a nationwide weight loss campaign. In Vietnam, we're doing credit access to small traders. In Australia, we're doing tourism tracking and compensation for land rights. Decentralized data service, of course, works with any app, any system. It can even move blockchain data and NFTs. How does it work? So this is where everybody says, so how does it really work? Well, it's really very simple. If you have an app, you can just enable a data passport. The data originator issues a user a data passport within an app, resulting in the provision of a universal ID and a decentralized data server. He connects the data, data is rehomed into the server database of the individual, enables a data asset to be created. This is now called a data pass. We know this because the specific form of the most expensive data pass in the world is called the COVID vaccination pass. Took about 6 months to build, we can get a data pass out in a week. If you have got decentralized data service, of course. Now, if you have these data passes, which could be credit standing, it could be location geofencing, the individual rehomes the data, you activate the data pass, verifies the credentials of the user and the user's persona, views the offers. Now the user himself starts to see, where can I use this data pass? Where else can this data pass be used? Can I use this KYC somewhere else? Can I use this credit score to get something else, a loan, a better credit or better financing? And then transact, it can be done physical spaces where you can actually really just show a QR code. And then share the data, which almost every single person in the world during COVID has learned to do with their COVID vaccination pass. So, unfortunately, one of the good, you can say good things that's happened in COVID, not many good things that's happened, is that COVID has educated the world on how to use a data pass. How does it work on the partner side? Well, you just obtain a data terminal, signs into a data terminal, provision with a UID, and also get a decentralized data server. You subscribe to the data originators network, whether it's the bank network, whoever issued the data passport. You view the data passes available. Now you see there's a KYC. It will tell you what the population and the audience of people who have activated this data pass, tells you what the pass has, what's the data in the data pass, tells you how much it costs to list onto the originator's data passport network, costs you how much it costs you if you actually acquire the data. And of course, the data pass represents the persona offered by the data originator, so the audience size is all shown there. You offer services to the audience that the data pass represents. You submit the service for approval. You receive the data when your customers show up because it's now listed into your partners, the data passport issuer's data passport. And you get to see the effectiveness of the offer you have put up in your partner's marketplace. So what we do in rehoming data is that we get to move messy, high variant, high friction, uncertain value of data as a commodity to a well-formed, safe to transact, mobile and high value decentralized data assets. That's what we do. I just want to meet a few of these decentralized data assets under our management today. We've got credit score in Vietnam. We tend to evaluate and assess each data asset according to their mobility rate, the demand for the data and the demand for the person, the network size, the price, and the apps that use it. Here are 5 examples of them. Some interesting one to kind of draw out is a verified weight loss as a data asset. Now, everybody goes like, what is that? I understand credit score. What is verified weight loss? So it's actually quite interesting, some interesting data assets that's come out of the woodwork. It seems that if you can verify that you've been trying to lose weight and you have been effective at it, you can actually bring a lot of your healthcare costs down. The question is it true? If it's truly true, it's worth something. But what is actually worth more wasn't just the verified weight loss that you can now use the data passport and says, yes, give me my free juice, or give me my discount on my healthcare, was the derivatives that came out of this data asset. Because if you are verified that you are losing weight, plus you've got mental health issues, and it's also verified, you can get better support on a passport that's attached to a mental health app. So the ecosystem starts to grow with the data assets as they start to be transacted across the entire marketplace. Other not so obvious data assets that's starting to come out recently, I thought was quite funny, was fandom. We have a client that's coming in Southeast Asia who says all the fans that they are fans of celebrity are stuck behind TikTok and Instagram likes, and you can't really reach them. So they're creating this app and creating this little data asset called I'm a fan of. And it seems that if I'm a fan of is verified by whoever you're a fan of in some way, there's quite a lot of brands out there that want to reach them. So there's some very interesting business models that's come out of decentralized data assets. Some of the case studies here, this is in Vietnam, where the one credit score, I've started to use the Marvel Cinematic Universe analogy, where for some reason you have the original timeline of the original credit score, but it starts to create variants and its derivatives. So having a credit score of 800 over, and a shop owner opens up a new ecosystem over there. And if you are credit score with low digital capability, opens up a whole new ecosystem for digital inclusivity and the transaction of that data path. In health, this is what I was talking about, this verified weight loss. There's a sejutakg.my campaign running in Malaysia that's trying to get to a 1 million kilogram loss of weight as a nationwide exercise. And they have their original timeline and they have their app. But because they can verify the person is losing weight and can be transacted on, all of a sudden little other ecosystems are coming out around Malaysia, which is quite an interesting multiverse world of data assets. Happy to talk through some of them, but just to tell you what we do, we manage our clients' decentralized data assets and their marketplaces. These are not our data assets. We don't own any data. We are very boring plumbing people. We just do plumbing. We just do pipes. We do servers and pipes and servers and pipes. But it will be our clients' these data that they wish to decentralize and rehome. It will be their decentralized assets that create these marketplaces. We help them create this, and we help them create closed networks. For example, 2 companies that just want to share bits of data with one another, or 5 companies that want to share other bits of data, or N companies. So open or closed networks and marketplaces are part of some of the marketplaces we manage, and some of the assets under our management, decentralized data assets under our management are some of those that you saw previously. We just came out of stealth in November, and we're starting to roll this out. The response has been quite phenomenal, and I'm off to the US in 1 week's time, where I will be speaking at the Web3 Summit. So talk to us if you have data, want to unlock its value, if you have invested in data lakes and you want some ROIs, or you really need more data. Remember, credit score is an $18 billion industry, and it just relies on bi- and multilateral sharing. So if you release it out, that's just credit score. I'm sure we've got better imagination for other kind of data assets than just credit score. We are, of course, created from a collaboration of many universities and businesses, more than £33 million grant. I have to put this here to acknowledge all the UK RI funding that's given us. And every time they say, what have we got for it? Well, it's coming. Decentralized servers, of course, build trust and give control to data subjects, provide privacy, permission, participation by default. Hope to address the power imbalance in ownership of data and design for inclusivity. And we hope to all, those of us who are data originators, hope to unlock the $11.7 trillion opportunity of data as an asset. And to finally get to this position where we keep our data in our data accounts, we transact freely with whomever we choose, frictionless, instant transactions. That's how we should be driving economic growth. Join us for the Data Economy 2.0. Thank you.
You want to turn yours on? Yeah. Should be gone green. Has it gone green?
Has it? Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Great. So as I said when I introduced you, you were right there at the beginning of this, starting this incredible new idea that we're all so excited about. Your company, the first time I saw you speaking it's called Hub of All Things, wasn't it? So I'm interested to know what your journey's been like. I don't want to sort of bring up too many negatives, but what have you know, what mistakes did you make and what have you learned to have gone from that point to this?
So you've got to go a little step before then, why we created the HAT microserver, which is the name that still is called, I mean, the developers and the engineering team still call it the HAT. So the origin story of the whole project was back in 2011, where I stood in the middle of Cambridge and I said, who would be the most likely company to offer me a recommendation for lunch right now? Like, you must know what allergies I have, what I really like, where I am, what I do, all of that. As a market design economist, I kind of figured that you probably reach 60% before you hit market failure. So basically, by the time you get into 60% accuracy, market will fail. Either governments will come in, or this is back in 2011, or it will be too much, too encroaching on my privacy, you are too powerful, something. And that was why we had to think about a new way of redesigning the market so that I just, sorry to say, could have a recommendation for lunch, right? Because I started to think, well, I'm not going to ever get a recommendation for lunch. You're going to be 60% accurate. That's awful. What does it take for me to get a proper recommendation for lunch, knowing who I am, where I am? And that created the notion of having to allow individuals to be the driver of the economy rather, for the good of all businesses, rather than, you know, winner takes all. So that kind of started with that journey. The biggest lesson learned was how early we were. How early. When the first grant came in 2012, 1.2 million, and all those talks we had in Helsinki and everything, everyone said, no one needs this, you know, everybody will give their data away. No one needs it, go away, you know, this just will fade. Then analytical happened. Today we have 120 countries with data regulation, more draconian regulations than we've seen in countries that are even more draconian than GDPR. And yet they ask a simple question. I mean, if a country wanted to put in data regulation, they ask a very simple question. What will it cost me in terms of the hit on the economy? So before one country goes to WTO and say, okay, I'm going to put in data privacy regulations, tell me what's my data worth, what's data worth, and how will this impact on the economy? And you need to answer that question because they need to know the impact. This technology enables very draconian data regulation, and yet the ability for the economy to thrive. And that's really important because we're not trying to lock it down because we're not trying to lock it down just to be private. We're trying to make sure that transactions and data sharing is safe. Like the way it is safe for your money to be transacted on. You don't wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, is my money safe, you know, in the bank? No, we need to have these frameworks. That was the second lesson, that you needed to make sure there's safety in the way data is being transacted, in the way data is moving around. So market readiness and the real need, not just for security or privacy, but for safety for data to be transacted was you know, two of the main lessons.
So you quoted this number of 11.7 trillion. I mean, where the hell does that come from? Who made that number up?
That's from the EU report. Just took it out straight from there.
But what does that even mean? Where does 11.7 trillion come from?
There are a few ways you can assess the value of data. So I'll have to credit David Boyle, a good friend and partner of ours who works with audience strategies, and he does audience segmentation. There's a value in audiences and personas. And every data broker in the room or elsewhere will know there are personas worth X amount and their audiences worth X amount. The question is, it's currently being used in a centralized internal system. Yeah. But imagine if you let that out, the value would still be pretty similar. You're just having a distribution channel to unlocking that value, right? So if you take persona values, you take audience values, and you take what's available, your number is going to be way more than 11.7 trillion.
Yeah. So you talked also about, you're obviously doing a lot of work in Vietnam. And I think you mentioned that you are working with small traders
yes.
there. So maybe for the audience's benefit and for mine, you can tell us a little bit about how that, how you built that and how you got the network effect to get lots of traders involved in accepting this way of transacting.
So COVID babies, we call them. COVID drivers, COVID babies. There are three major impacts on COVID. We know health, we know finance. The biggest one is, of course, e-commerce. It's a very interesting statistic. In the year 2020, 95% of retail transactions went through only 100 websites because everybody was locked down. So, and then it went boom. Every Amazon-esque or Amazon Mini or Amazon Lite or Shopee, Lazada, and all these started to come out everywhere from Ghana to Vietnam. And a lot of people who were working became small traders, became microfirms, started to make socks and food, and started to ship stuff around the world and sell stuff around the world, creating a $1.7 trillion trade finance gap. And also then created a problem because all these are your transactions as a microfirm, as a person, stuck in one e-commerce company. And even if they gave you some credit financing as you started to grow your little business, your repayment went to the bank transactions. And these two sites just couldn't share data very well. And so part of the reasons we work with the IFC and the World Bank is if you had a data passport, you allow the ability, and a data server, you allowed both sides to rehome the data and create different insights, and both sides will get the benefit of the rehome data and the data asset. So I think it was really born out of a need from people who, an e-commerce expansion that has resulted in also expansion of individuals becoming small traders. So that sort of that was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Where that came from, but yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've got maybe a minute or two for questions if there are any. So, do we have any questions? Oh, Lee.
Good for you.
Yeah. Hello. Your presentation gave me a real sense of the velocity and volume of data that could potentially be rippling down a series of AI and ML decision processes. And that scared me. And it scared me because I just thought for a moment about high-frequency trading in financial services and all of the dangers that that presents. But in this world, are we risking the individual not having control over the value of their data, but those with the most advanced, most powerful AI, ML decisions having the power?
It's a really good question. And I think the right answer is individuals should have all the power of AI, ML as a decision support, but never for a decision, right? I would, what is the old saying? If you did something repeatedly for 20 minutes, you should have a bot doing it. You know, you can just do as much as if it needs to be repeated beyond 20 minutes, it should be done by a bot because the bot will be more efficient. But what you want is the bot to report to you, right? So, you want a bot to be a part of your little world. Like as a firm, for example, I will have my bot and my computer. If you start using decentralized data servers, the biggest connector is the human connector. The human connector sees the credit score. He sees what he wants to share. He sees what offers he has. He decides what he wants to go give it. But he doesn't have to do all the algorithmic computation of all the 3 sets of transactions he had across 3 bank accounts to say your credit score is 893, and here are the 7 products that you could possibly have because of your wonderful credit score. So no one gets it till you say you give it. It's like the way you share your vaccination pass or wherever you go to share any kind of pass. So in a way, there's a lot of speed as the internet tends to have, but we've been using the wrong connectors. The right connectors that actually moderate that speed are human. Our decision-making, our time taken, our decision on looking at stuff and say, yeah, I'll go for that. So you want the speed of the internet and the power of AI ML, but you want to be the center of that connection so that you can have the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Lee. Dario.
Representing the people online, quick question in the Q&A. Great, but not happening yet. Do we need regulatory intervention? Which is something also I've heard before.
Do we need regulatory?
Intervention.
Intervention?
Yeah.
Oh, if you intervene on the decentralized data server, then you are intervening to stop people from bringing their laptop into the country. Because that's where the person as the data processor and the data controller sits. So yeah, his laptop and the data server. So you can regulate it. I'd like to see how. What we need to do, because we have this, was to spend nearly £8 million of a lot of research money putting in that regulation through the Hack Community Foundation run by the 6 universities that now provides the oversight to ensure that Dataswift can still remain commercial, and that when we go through the 77 harms whenever a particular data asset is about to be rolled out, that we don't tell our clients, no, you can't do that. We're not Apple. Okay? We say, sorry, you hit amber on the 77 harms, so we can't set up that contract for you. If you want, you can appeal to the foundation, but Dataswift will be commercial, enacting that. So yes, there is regulation, not governmental necessarily, but the same kind of regulation that you have for banks, because you have your Basel Committee and you have your Bank Supervision Committee to ensure something that people forget. You do know that you gave all your money to a bank and they are for profit. So you need to have those regulatory frameworks to ensure that the banks can continue to be for profit, and yet you are absolutely safe that no one's going to be taking your money. Same with data.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Irene, as articulate and passionate as ever. And good luck with the next stage of the Dataswift journey. And thank you again.
Thank you.